Good day everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is the fourth video in the four-part series on how to knit. The first video is on how to do the long tail cast on. The second video is how to do the knit stitch. And the third video is how to do the purl stitch. If you haven't checked out these three videos that I've just mentioned, please do so. I do give other tips and tricks in them on how to see which side is the right side of your fabric and so forth. And this tutorial is going to be how to do the lifted bind off. So to do the lifted bind off, in this instance, we are working with our right side of the fabric facing us. If you use a pattern, they will usually tell you what type of bind off to do and on which side your work should be to do the bind off. The lifted bind off is a very plain and basic bind off. It is not stretchy. So if you need a very stretchy bind off, like for using in socks, you would definitely do a different bind off. This bind off is ideal for something like my dishcloth. I will link the video up here for you if you're interested. And let's get into this tutorial. So to do the lifted bind off, we are simply going to knit 2 stitches. And then we are going to lift the stitch on the right side over the stitch on the left side. So you're going to take your feeder needle, grab onto the right leg of that stitch, hold onto this yarn to keep this stitch in place, and pull it over the other stitch. And you have just bound off your first stitch. Don't pull on this too tight and tighten up this loop too much. You can just, if it does, just give it a little wiggle so that it's nice and free. Take your needles again and knit 1 stitch. And we are going to repeat that by taking the feeder needle, grabbing onto the right leg, grab onto your yarn and lift the stitch over the stitch on the left hand side. And you have bound off 2 stitches. And here you can see that you get a nice V stitch on the top part where you bound off, if you need to maybe pick up stitches for something or whatever you are making, or just a nice edge, gives a nice and neat edge. Right, so let's continue. Knit the next stitch, take your feeder needle, grab the stitch on the right, take hold of your yarn to keep your left stitch in place, and lift the right stitch over the left stitch to bind it off. I'm going to bind off the rest of the stitches so that you can watch. And when you have only one stitch left on your needle, you can take the needle out break your yarn with a generous piece that you can weave in later or do whatever you need to do with. Open the stitch a little bit and just thread this piece through the loop and pull it tight. I like to pull it horizontally so that this stitch don't open up more and stand like a little bump here. I just pull it a little bit horizontally until it's closed up. And you have bound off your stitches. So that is the end of this fourth video in this tutorial on how to knit. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. That will ensure that you get a notification when I upload a new video. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, happy crafting!